through people being lonely, just having someone who is human-like and being able to have human-like conversations with a digital being, whatever that means to you, is gonna be significant to mental health.
All right. So, Cal, I wanted to talk to you about something. I sent it to you a little bit earlier, you and Steve. Um, and it's about a tweet that was sent the other day that I saw was retweeted. And it's about this company called Digi, right? It says the future of AI romantic companionship for iOS and Android. And then there was a little thread about the different features. And, we've
Yep.
talked about AI kind of at length. And, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on romantic companionship as it relates to AI, and then also kind of
Yeah.
like all of the different ways in which this can go, not specific to just like, you know, romantic companionship.
Yeah, I think my initial thought is like, I can't really I obviously, am in a relationship and have a girlfriend, and like, I don't I can't wrap my head around the fact that someone would, want to constantly engage with a chatbot or a digital character. That's just not me, and like I struggle to understand that. But what I will say is that, you know, with the amount of time we all spend online and I think Steve, I would love if you could pull up data on this to back my point up, but I do believe that the number one, call it epidemic going across North America right now is loneliness.
Yeah.
Um, so that alone, there's obviously a massive market for what Digi is doing or what other AI companion, whether it's romantic, whether it's friendship. Like to me, it doesn't need to like be any specific thing. It can be you talked about suicide before. I think that again, like through people being lonely, just having someone who is human like and being able to have human like conversations with a digital being, whatever that means to you, is going to be significant to mental health. So
Well,
I think it's positive.
you're saying that you can't wrap your head around it, but like let me back up to that point and
For
then
me, for
right.
me, I don't think I can, but
But
sure.
you're saying you can't wrap your head around that, but like, okay, look at the picture of that tweet that I sent you, right? Um, if you look at that
Yeah.
picture, it's of, what looks like almost like a Pixar Disney character. Like
I think that's what they said it was, yeah.
yeah, and it's like this like attractive woman with like red hair. She's like, she's got, she's definitely stacked, right? Like she's got her blouse like open. And the thing is, there are so many people that are into anime, right? And if you've seen like almost like erotic kind of style anime, or just think about the people
Yeah,
that are in like these Discord chats or that are in
true.
like these communities, and most of them, their entire lives are online, right? Or they're on social
Yeah,
media, they're on these different platforms. And so, like, when I saw this, I was just like, wow, this is to me, it's basically like this was inevitable, right? Like, a lot of times with technology, when new technology comes about, like, where is the first place where it's deployed? I feel like a lot of times it has to do with like pornography, right? Like you'll see the technology take place in that sort of setting, and it's
like
because
you're talking like VR
yes,
for an example.
VR and like all the different things, right? Um, but again, like it really, to your point, it's about loneliness. There's so many people that feel
I
so
mean,
so isolated.
and we're seeing the stats right now, nearly 1 in 4 adults feel lonely. 142 countries surveyed found that 24% 15 and up feel lonely, and the highest is in young adult males, or it just says young adults, actually, sorry, not males, but young adults 19 to 29.
And it's a byproduct of the pandemic, and it's a byproduct of
It
now
is,
so
yeah.
many people working remote, right? And now like not going
Mhm.
into traditional offices. And so I saw
Yep.
this, And I thought, okay, it's a genius idea in a lot of ways. The second thing it
Mm,
made me think about was this movie, Her, with Joaquin Phoenix from back in the day, which you told me you've never seen. But basically, the premise being like it takes place in the future, and he falls in love with this like is it like an AI whatever it is, it's like a
it's
voice.
yeah,
It's like an AI voice, an iOS, and it's the voice is played by Scarlett Johansson, right? And it just is one of those things where like if you watch that movie, it seems super realistic, like this is something that could happen in the future. And now lo and behold, here we are. And it is happening. And it's like this is just
yeah,
the tip of the iceberg. So I think that was my second thought. And then my third thought was to your point about like suicides and even just as basic as friendship, right? Like, a lot of people, there's so many use cases for what like an AI companion can be, right? It could be it could be as simple as like an assistant for you, if in like a work setting, or it could just be
yeah.
somebody that you have a conversation with. I mean, yeah, like I'm just thinking about this like off the cuff, but it would be interesting if there was an AI, you know, if there was a way in which you could do a podcast with somebody that was just an AI like character, right? And like you have somebody that's human and you have somebody that's AI, and it'd be really interesting to see what that conversation would be like, especially once it's advanced and further along in terms of the capabilities, right? But like, why couldn't there be a really compelling conversation with some AI host that has access to so much information, right? And is able to kind of like be
Yeah.
the straight guy, informational, like, Jamie to the Joe Rogan of having access, right, to all different types of, like I said, information. So I just think it's fascinating. And I think like if I could invest money, and maybe I will, it would be in this AI companionship, Digi, whatever you want to call it. And again, I just think it's the tip of the iceberg of where this could all head.
I think to your point though, you know, the I just said, but the fact that everyone is yet to discover the capabilities of being able to actually have human-like conversations with someone that's not human, so that process is automated and can happen 24/7. Right now, we're all at the uh, you know, what's the word, disparate. We're at the you know helm of our own time, in the sense that you and I only have, call it 12 hours a day that we can work and do stuff aside from family time and sleeping and eating and whatever. And so in those 12 hours, we can only do so much and we can only have so many conversations, et cetera, et cetera. I think that, again, this AI knowing everything because it's a language learning model, and then being able to do 24 hours and work 7 days a week, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, assistance, friend, whatever. Yeah, but at the end of the day, my thing always goes back to, would I not rather be having a conversation with an actual human being? And even when you're on a website, like it's a clothing website, when you go to the chat bot and you can tell that it's computer
Yeah.
automated, you're like, screw that. I don't want to talk to this. I want to talk to a real human. Like, help me as a real human. And so I think that I'm just interested to see how the fine tuning of that human like interactions and experience becomes and evolves over time. That's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. And like, I think it's a great point around just like the human connection aspect of it. But again, I just thought of another use case where like I feel like it would make sense, right? Is I'm I'm doing fantasy football with my kid, right? And it's like the other day I needed to make a decision of like who do I start? We're in the playoffs. And
Yeah,
all
yeah.
I was looking for was like somebody to help talk me through like the different factors of why I should start one guy over the other,
Hey, if you
right?
start X, they play, the team that gives up the third most points in the league, and There, yeah,
Exactly.
I
So I'm
got it.
like, I'm trying to make a decision behind whether I should start DeAndre Swift or Kenneth Walker for that flex spot. And I'm having four separate conversations with friends, and they're all like, yeah, like kind of talking through it. But like, I'm saying, okay, but I don't know if Geno Smith is playing. And so, like, does that mean that they're going to rely on the run more, or does that mean that they're going to, stack the box? And then maybe Jalen Hurts was maybe not going to play, but now he is playing. Is that better for the running back because you have a better chance of playing ahead? Or does that mean that,
Yeah,
maybe you want to take Kenneth Walker because if you're on the goal line, you're doing the brotherly shove with Jalen Hurts, where if he's not playing, maybe you hand that off to Swift. And so that's one of those instances where it's like, I could see that being a fucking huge success. Like that's a half baked idea right there, like some fantasy AI, because I'm always like trying to look for information around my guy specific. And like, I actually had this idea back in the day of like, there's a hotline that you can call where you can get like fantasy
to get
advice
advice.
from somebody, but like, maybe it would be a good little, you know, idea of having that AI fantasy expert, and then you could, give all of the different information around, the different start sits and so forth. And yeah, there's a million use cases. I just said, before too. Sorry, Steve.
I love that idea. And to wrap it all up, there's a massive use case for AI companionship, whether it be romantic, whether it be friendship, whether it be fantasy advice. And yeah, I think that I'm so excited to see how it all plays out, and stay with us for all AI related companion news.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you for tuning into the Put On Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to follow us on social at the Put On Pod.